I'm Dr. Suzanne Manser, psychologist, therapist, and author. Today I want to talk to the adult children of narcissistic parents, like me. If you've got a narcissistic parent, you probably struggle with your relationship with them. Narcissists are notoriously hard to be in relationship with, especially when they're your parents. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about what it's like growing up with a narcissist, and then I've got 5 actions that you can take to take care of yourself in terms of that relationship. So let's start by talking about some of the common characteristics of people with narcissistic tendencies. People with narcissistic tendencies tend to have an exaggerated sense of self-importance. They tend to be entitled. They believe that they're superior, unique, and deserving of special treatment. They need to be admired. They lack the ability to empathize or understand experiences outside of their own. They tend to be arrogant, overly critical, manipulative, and controlling. Fun characteristics in a parent. Narcissism simply does not leave room for anybody else to be allowed to be themselves. Everybody in the orbit of the narcissist has to support the narcissist's point of view and their belief system, or they're going to be told that they're wrong. As a result, kids of narcissistic parents tend to have a low self-esteem and self-worth because they're told they're wrong all the time. They struggle with asserting their needs because their needs have been invalidated. They tend to be people pleasers. They tend to be self-critical, and they tend to easily feel guilt and shame. If this is you, like it was me, and if you're struggling to manage your relationship with your narcissistic parent, here are 5 actions you can take, 5 things that you can do. The first one is to learn about narcissism so that you understand what's driving your parents' treatment of you. This is going to help you to not take it personally, and that's going to help you start to unhook from its effects. It's also going to validate your feelings and your experiences of being hurt by your parent, which is deeply important, and that's going to support you through the rest of this process. 2, identify your needs in the relationship with your parent. Although you may not get it from them, consider what you need to feel safe and respected. This is going to take some time. You've been trained to not focus on and not validate your needs. So plan to journal or talk to a friend or a therapist, or maybe even just read about the experiences of other children of narcissists to help you figure out what your needs are in this relationship. 3, communicate your needs. You have to communicate your needs so that your parent has a clear blueprint for how to take care of you, whether they can or not. So consider whether this conversation should be in person or would be better in a phone call or a Zoom call or maybe even an email. Your goal in this conversation is to keep it as non-emotional and non-reactive as possible. If your needs still don't get met after this conversation, your job is to take care of yourself, and that usually requires boundaries. So number 4, decide on your boundaries with your parent. A boundary is the marker that separates you from everybody else. You have sovereignty over everything within your boundaries. Narcissists don't acknowledge this. They don't like that you have sovereignty over yourself, so they're not likely to validate your boundaries. If a boundary is crossed or invalidated, you get to decide what action that you're going to take care of yourself. You're likely going to need to put up boundaries around communication and visits with your parent. So around communication, you want to think about putting boundaries around when you talk, how long you talk for, and what you talk about. And in terms of visits, you want to think about how long they are, and if you have to travel, where you stay, whether you stay with your parent or whether it's a hotel. Going no contact with your parent is a big boundary, but it's a valid one. If your parent can't or won't abide by your boundaries, you have the right to keep yourself safe, whether that's emotionally or physically. And no contact is sometimes the only option that you've got. 5th action that you can take, create a support system. Whatever your relationship with your narcissistic parent looks like, it probably doesn't feel great. Having people in your life who understand and validate your experience is going to help you feel valid and not crazy. Your support system can also help you stick to your boundaries. If you don't have a support system, or if you don't know where to find your supports, start here with me and the rest of your tribe. Here's my story. My mom died in 2020, but she was a narcissist, and I didn't know better. I took it personally. My mom wasn't usually arrogant or grandiose. She didn't demand to be the center of attention, but she believed that she knew the right way to do everything, and she was very controlling about it. My mom didn't allow boundaries between us. She theoretically knew that we were different people, but she couldn't allow us to have different needs or even different opinions. According to my mom, what she needed was what I should need. What she believed was what I should believe. She couldn't empathize with me if my needs or my feelings were different than hers. She just didn't understand it. My mom wasn't a monster in any way, but it was really hard to be her kid. I hated her for not validating me. I hated her for not seeing me. And I hated her for telling me that I was wrong about me. I hated being around my mom, even when I was an adult, because I never had any leverage. I could not get her to see my perspective. The thing that I could never wrap my mind around is that she was never going to see my perspective. Trying to be in a relationship with a narcissist requires a level of acceptance that I never got to. I needed to accept that my mom was limited, and I needed to stop trying to change her. I never learned how to do that while she was alive. Even in her death, I've had to work really hard to navigate our relationship and heal. With acceptance, healing is possible. The healing comes from understanding that we were never the problem, and that we now have the ability to take care of ourselves, even when our parents can't or won't.